Welcome to episode 209 of Come On You Reds, the Toronto FC podcast. Gareth Wheeler and Terry Dunfield with you for an instant reaction podcast. We're recording this immediately following Toronto FC's 1-0 loss to New York City FC. And it's one of those rare weeks where, unfortunately, we need to talk about Toronto FC on the back of two losses, them falling to Philadelphia Union on the weekend. 5-0 was the final. Other than that, Terry, how was your week?
Not bad. I mean, a little bit Groundhog Day. It was nice to watch the Premier League on the weekend, but it's weird. TFC not winning.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's not like Groundhog Day, to be honest with you. Yeah. Like this COVID lifestyle, I don't think that anyone can ever get used to it because I'm with you. I wake up and it's the same day over and over again. The only difference is if Toronto FC is playing or not, or if there's Champions League or if there's Premier League. Seriously.
That's like the highlight of my. It's like the double 2 games a week are great right now. They're like the highlight of the week that I look forward to. And for 90 minutes or 120 minutes, I forget about COVID.
Yeah. It was funny, like someone was asking me, hey, what's happening? What's new? I'm like, well, I got a new pair of jeans. Then I was thinking about what else is new. I'm like, oh, yeah, I kind of gave up on life for the next couple months and I bought some matching tracksuits. I bought the track pants and the hoodie matching pairs so I could just be a bum around the house for the next few months. How's that for motivation?
All right.
At least I'll be comfortable.
Really know what to say. It made me think of my old Umbro tracksuits back in the day when I used to walk around looking like a fourth official. I looked like a spacesuit.
See, I'm dressing like I was living in Liverpool in the 1990s. You know the look.
You don't have your socks tucked into your tracksuit bottoms, do you?
I actually do. And I went out in public and I was wearing my Adidas flip-flops with my socks tucked into my pants. How about that?
All right, well, calm down. Want some chicken?
Anyways, don't worry, people. I haven't.
By the way, that was a Scouser impression.
Sure was. By the way, I haven't completely given up on life, so that's a good news. By the way, my wife is watching The Real Housewives of Cheshire. Isn't that your old neck of the woods?
Yeah. I think I got a housewife over there somewhere right now.
Is she on the show?
That area, Alderley Edge, is a small village at the hub of Cheshire. So Cheshire would be like a small Ontario. That's the Shire, I get. No.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
What's
the what?
The Cheshire is the state or the region within England.
Yeah. So it would be like the region. That's fine.
Yeah. And then the core of Cheshire Housewives would be this little area called Alderley Edge. That's where all the footballers' wives actually live. There's actually courses at university how to be a wag. It's nuts, man.
Really?
Yeah.
I wish I could have signed up for that. By the way, Phil Barbsley's wife's on the show.
Yeah, I know. I know her. She's
you do?
A friend of mine. Yeah. She's bananas.
You might have to tune into the program. You can come over and watch it with my wife. Yeah. Okay, let's get into what's transpired over the last week. Starting off with tonight, a 1-0 loss to New York City FC. Now, it's very difficult to talk about the game, to actually assess it without discussing the context because injuries have been a real issue with this team. And Marky Delgado joined the walking wounded, coming off injured at halftime last time out. He's got a hip hamstring issue. They're still investigating what the actual issue is and how long it will keep him out. Joining, get this, Alex Bono, Jonathan Osorio, Achara, Pablo Piatti, Ayo Akinola, and Josie Altidore on the sidelines. And oh, by the way, Arrow injured tonight, to the point where Greg Vanney is playing Justin Morrow basically as outside left midfield to try to get by. I mean, this is how lean things are. And this is coming off, again, playing 2 games in a matter of 4 or 5 days, Terry. It's been an incredibly difficult schedule, not to mention these injuries to so many key players. So discussing tonight's game and everything that happened, it's very difficult to do so without the context of these injuries that have kind of limited, Toronto FC and what they're able to do and play in their image over the course of recent games.
100%. That's the story of the last two games. It's to be missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players in a salary cap league, playing against two of the best teams in your conference that are now super motivated to beat you because you're top of the league. To go into games without that firepower, things are completely different. And of those 9 players, I'd say 6 are dynamic attacking players. And you could even put Auro into that because he sets up attacks. So things are completely different. Yes, it's opportunity for other players. But when you talk about coming into games in a little bit of rhythm, chemistry with your teammates, things have changed completely. And what I'd say about tonight, Wheels, sort of jump straight into it.
No worries.
Is we weren't that far off. We had 2 outstanding chances from Morrow in the first half. We smacked the crossbar, still ringing that strike from De Leon, and the goal we conceded was a tough one. And again, we see 2 academy players come on and make a difference in the last 10 minutes.
Here. If you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, what players are they talking about? Let's just walk through this, Terry, because Auro would walk into my first team any day of the week. Mavinga, obviously, who is available off the bench tonight. But as Greg Vanney put it, it's a catch-22 because you want to make sure that he's healthy for the playoff run. So if you don't have to rush him, you don't want to. Mavinga is also, by the way, in the conversation for Defender of the Year in Major League Soccer. He's been that good. Delgado Osorio, no doubt, 2 starting midfielders. And your front 3. Piatti, Akinola has now emerged as a starter, as well as Altidore. So I'm counting 7 players right away who are unavailable to you tonight that would be in your best starting 11. Agree? Are we on the same page?
Don't forget, Chara was in our starting 11 at the start of the year too.
Sure.
You're talking about internationals here, and I'd say of these 9 players, they'd walk into pretty much any team in MLS and make a difference.
And on top of that, and look, these aren't excuses. This is the reality. Justin Morrow, his first start in about 5 or 6 games coming back from injury. Michael Bradley, his second game back, trying to get back to full fitness after 2 injuries have really kind of limited what he's been able to do on the season. Look, and you're playing Pozuelo in a different role in a completely different formation. Like tonight was about survival. And if you could have come away with a draw tonight, I know you're right in that Supporter Shield race, but you would have taken that draw, Terry. And like you said, Toronto FC weren't that far off it. They had to scrape, fight, scratch, and claw. But at the end of the day, just didn't have quite enough in attack, like you say, to kind of see things over the finish line.
Yeah, still creating 3 or 4 really good chances. And I played in teams when there's wholesale changes, it just disrupts your rhythm. Things just aren't the same. When you make changes, you want to make max 3-4 changes. But when you rip out the spine of your team, with all due respect to the players that did play, and you know what, they ran their socks off tonight, it's not going to look the same. It is going to be a little bit disjointed.
Yeah. If you missed it, Greg Vanney was asked in his post-match press conference. I'm not sure if it will be aired or not, but it'll certainly be reported on. He kind of got a little bit fired up, like saying the players worked their asses off, coming to the defense of his team for maybe a little bit of a pointed question, asking about not scoring in 2 games. I mean, there are plenty of teams in Major League Soccer who are completely healthy that don't go 2-3 games without scoring goals. And for me, Vanney rightfully took exception to that. I mean, this team has the second most points in Major League Soccer. They've been playing in a home away from home in Hartford, Connecticut, detached and away from their families and loved ones and their sense of regularity. They're missing an incredible numbers of players, and they're trying to figure out a way to be as competitive as they can while they have some really important pieces on the shelf. I don't blame them because
against a stacked New York City FC team.
A team that's very good team.
And has every player available to them, more or less, maybe minus Hebert.
Yeah. You can watch the entire scrum on TorontoFC.ca if you like, but I think it's about time that Vanney stands up for himself. Thankfully, he hasn't had to, Terry, because this team has done so well. We were talking a team that had that had 2 losses on the season before this week happened. You know what I mean? And it reminds me of the bigger clubs in world football, whether you're a Barcelona, Manchester United, a Manchester City, a Liverpool. As soon as you slip up, the critics come out with their knives and they're just ready to strike and find ways to pick you apart. There aren't very many teams in Toronto FC where similar conversations happen. Like in some markets, their supporters just go on with their life because they're not accustomed to winning, or whatever it is about this market. Perhaps it's a good thing that people care, but I think that it's unfair to paint an incomplete picture. Like when I'm hearing that their performance is alarming to a certain degree, I'm like, alarming? What's alarming is how many injuries are in the team and making sure that they can get back in terms of playoff time, and this team can have some sort of consistency heading into playoff football. That's the biggest concern for me, not the way that they were playing in this game against New York City tonight.
No, I'd say there wasn't a whole bunch in the game. As we said, it was close. I'd say I think every player can be proud of their performance. They left it out on a very heavy pitch as well. And there's some positive performances out there. It was nice to see Liam get an opportunity. I thought that was good management from Greg after, kind of being involved in goals against Philadelphia. It's not easy coming off the bench and running into a little bit of a steam train, but he gets a chance to put things right today. So that was good. But yeah, I think, when things get tough, and they are a little bit tough for the team right now, let's not forget we're top of the league. We've been spoiled for the last 4 or 5 years with so much hardware, an incredible season this year under extremely difficult circumstances, like you said. We've got a good thing going here at TFC. We're heading into the playoffs, and I'm sure decisions were made to ensure that we put together a run in the playoffs.
Terry, I'm trying to think back to your Toronto FC team, or maybe other teams that you played for, when you lost a number of your attacking players and you're forced to play in a little bit of a way. What's that like? Like, what's the trickle down effect when you're missing a lot of your key players up top, and what happens to the rest of the team and the way you play because of that?
A good question. I think you start to take on a little bit more responsibility, or your role's a little bit different. Look at Morrow today. Look, he's not played a ton of football. All of a sudden, it's a different behavior. He finds himself running him very vertically, but in a vertical channel between the fullback and center back, gets himself into a great spot. But even when you think about all his goals a couple of years back, they were kind of at the back post. It's a different action to him. He's not had a ton of reps there, so it's different. So one, you find yourself in different spots. You take on a little bit more responsibility. Partnerships and relationships aren't quite the same. And I think in MLS, difference makers are so important. Guys that can just change a game in a second, especially when you're at the top of the league or you're in tight games. And we look at that list of players missing. Those are your difference makers. And I think even for a player like Pozuelo, he still needs his mates in and around him, with all due respect to some of the guys on the field today.
Right. And
the way, sense?
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I'm also thinking about the way that Toronto FC defends, because the wing players in particular, when TFC is playing a 4-3-3, Greg relies on them to put in a shift defensively. I've been very impressed with the way that the likes of Piatti have gone about, performing their defensive role over the course of the season as well. And tonight, when you're playing a little bit of a different formation, you have Justin Morrow playing a little bit more of an advanced role. You have no out-and-out, right-sided midfield player. It's about kind of managing the game and figuring out what you want to give away. And what that meant was sometimes the central midfield players, Bradley's drawn out a little bit too much, or Liam's asked to be drawn a little bit more at a position. Then these balls are being played in to the back line, which is making their life a little bit more difficult. That's where the New York City chances were coming tonight, by players being dragged a little bit more at a position. But that's because the personnel that you typically have that perform those roles aren't there.
Yeah, great point. And I think when you're set up, a little bit more defensively, especially on the back of a 5-0. And you go in with a little bit more of a cautious approach. It's tough when you concede as well to all of a sudden change your game plan a little bit when you're set up defensively, especially when you concede. What's a tough goal that takes some wind out of your sails. So I'd say that's a little bit of something you need to take into consideration. Also, I look at all the New York City chances, Wheels. I don't think we were broken down. I still think their shots were from outside of the box. I still think there were bodies between the ball and Quentin Westberg. There was defenders there. They weren't clean looks. I wouldn't say New York City missed a ton of sitters.
Yeah. And the goal that they scored is probably one that, Quentin Westberg would want back. A shot from distance, a rare time a player got some space in the pocket. He's 24 yards out, in and about. Hits a dipping shot. Westberg just misplays it. It's one of those rare opportunities where a ball falls to Medina and the defenders don't really come back to help him out. I guess you expect, Westberg to cover up the ball in a situation like that, which is kind of unfortunate because of the 5 goals that were let up against Philadelphia on the weekend. You can't put any of them on the goalkeeper at all. No. It's just football sometimes. And Vanney told me before the game that the field's a little bit soft. It was raining there today. It was a little bit difficult. And a lot of these factors just weighed into a goal that was regrettable given up to Toronto FC. Of all the chances, I mean, that probably wouldn't be in my top 3 in terms of goal scoring opportunities given up on the night by Toronto FC, but they took full advantage.
No, we weren't carved open. And, I think Westberg, I'm by no means a goalkeeper expert, probably wants to parry that wide. It was moving all over the place. It was kind of knuckling. But yeah, I think if he has looks at the film of it with Conway, or has another similar type of shot like that, I think you just want to push it away from the goal if possible. I mean, I'm saying stuff that everybody knows, and then just due to the heavy pitch, I think that can lead to the types of injuries maybe we're picking up. Again, I'm not a performance or physio expert either, but there's some hamstrings, there's some calves in there, a messed up schedule where you're kind of coming home, you've got days off, you're not training even though you'll be trying to do something, and then you're training on different surfaces, you're in baseball diamonds, you're short commuter flights to different stadiums, you're not really getting into a training rhythm. No. And these games are intense now. These games, teams are playing for their lives, whether it's to get into the playoffs, whether it's us trying to win the Supporters Shield. I think that all of these variables lead to just extra strain on these players' bodies.
Let's talk about the positives tonight. And you mentioned it. The young players, when they came on, Jaden Nelson and Ralph Priso in particular, I thought were very bright. That's the most comfortable and confident that Jaden Nelson has looked. I don't know how much of it had to do with the fact that he was playing in a 2 up top and he had a little bit more license to move on the right-hand side, the left-hand side, use the entire field rather being isolated in one position, but he had jump in his step. He was looking to create. I thought it was very good by Jaden. And Ralph got stuck right in. He's an 18-year-old challenging some experienced players in the middle of the park. I thought both of them made a difference here tonight, Terry.
Yeah. I think you nailed it with Jaden. I think playing as a false 9 or a loose 9, whatever you want to call it, he just had the freedom to basically go out and express himself and make stuff happen. And I thought he played implicitly, where he wasn't thinking about his actions. He was just playing and he was trying to make stuff happen. It took away some of his defensive responsibilities. And I think too, he's playing he's fighting for minutes right now. Like he knows he's got to go out there. He's not going to get a ton of opportunities come playoff times, but if he can show that, he's reliable, he can be a little bit of a spark plug, then we don't have a whole bunch of players fit in with that profile that he might get some time. And this was the first time where I thought, okay, Jaden, this is what we've seen in the academy, without really opening up New York City. Won a couple of corners, but yeah, I'd say he was busy. And we're seeing growth throughout his performances since he made his debut. Ralph Wheels, I thought, was outstanding, man. He had a moment where he lost the ball, tracked back. I don't know if you remember it, and was just a beast in defensive transition. Won it, kept it simple. The biggest compliment I can give Ralph is he looks like he belongs out there.
He does.
And not only physically he's a beast, you can see the actions he's trying to set up are purposeful. It's not random. And for him, it'll be too bad that we're kind of entering the playoffs and it's not the start of the year. Because I think we've seen in his cameo appearances that he's earned probably more minutes. Other positives I'd say is I thought we defended well, and I know we've touched on it already. I thought we were difficult to break down. I'd say that's a positive, and it looks like hopefully we haven't picked up any injuries as well.
Yeah, but what's unfortunate, Piatti's happened in practice. Like, it's just, some of it's just dumb luck and accumulation of a crazy amount of games being played. Look, enough of that negative stuff. I want to get your opinion on this, because the conversation we've had before is, how do Bradley and Fraser work in the same midfield? Obviously, you have other players like Delgado and Osorio, and now Priso and Nick DeLeon as well, who have come into the mix. But I love the addition of Priso, and this had nothing to do with the way that Liam played. I thought he played well tonight, bouncing back from a difficult 45 minutes against Philadelphia. But I like around Bradley. I feel like Bradley is at his best when he plays quarterback a little bit, plays a little bit deeper, doesn't have to move around as much. And Prizo's a much more athletic option. Like, he's quicker in the middle of the park. And I think what you need in this league, especially, you need legs in the middle of the park. That's why I always defend Marky Delgado against whatever random strange critics he has out there, because the work that he does complements everyone else around him. I'm kind of looking at Ralph in the same way, that his profile is something that TFC need in that position to get the best of the other players around him.
Yeah, for sure. I think his left foot also gives us a bit of balance. I'd say he's different to Markey in that he can drive past a player. He can drive the team up in possession with the ball. But yeah, I think he can be that box-to-box player. And then you've got your creative player in Pozuelo. And he can get through some of the dirty work and cover maybe a little bit more ground than what Liam might be able to do. What Liam can do, and his strengths he's very good at playing that setup pass that leads to then opening a team up. He more protects space than maybe going man on man with players like Ralph does. But I think Ralph for sure gives you a different option.
So 1-0 the final. Toronto FC fall to New York City FC. I'm not sure how much time we need to spend on the 5-0 loss to Philadelphia. Look, it was a bad night at the office. There's no other way of putting it. It was a failure to launch from the opening whistle, and TFC ended up chasing the game and chasing shadows of Philadelphia for long stretches. A fully fit Philadelphia Union side. That was their best 11, 12, 13. Like, they had a full complement of players. They were motivated. They were playing at home in front of actual fans, and Toronto FC simply couldn't keep up on Sunday. I'm not sure how much more there is to add other than that. I think about what we've seen in world football as of late with schedule congestion. We've seen Liverpool lose to Aston Villa 7-2. We've seen Manchester United lose to Spurs 6-1. We saw the Champions League semifinalist in Leipzig lose 5-0 to Manchester United today. You sometimes see this in the game. It by no means is an indicament of what the losing side actually is. Just, it's very difficult to be that good each and every time that you hit the field. I don't care what sport you're playing, Terry.
Well said, man. I think that there's, and it might be a little bit of an old school mentality. You've got to earn the right to play every time you play a game of football, or whether it's even training. And if you're not ready to compete, it's going to be a difficult night. And whether it was mental, whether it was physical, but we ran into a very motivated Philly team. I'm not sure whether the Supporters Shield talk had something to play with it, whether the time off when the guys went back home. But we just weren't quite at it. And you could kind of maybe sense it or feel that from the start. And one thing that's really difficult is, especially in a football game, is to change that in game. There's not many players that can just turn it on. Only player I know that I've been able to see do it was Thierry Henry. He'd do nothing for 80 minutes for the Red Bulls, and then he'd stick it in the top corner twice. But for most soccer players, it's tough. And Philly were playing for their lives, and they get a lot of credit about their academy and the players that have come through, and that's fantastic. And we should be getting similar plaudits as well. But what I'll say about that Philly team is they've got some quality in it too. I think Montero in midfield, Martinez, who actually picked up COVID today, he didn't play tonight, and Wagner are three very good players. Wheels.
I'm just reaching back for my stats. If you're watching on YouTube, hello. Thanks for joining us. Continue to subscribe, like all of our content. TFC against Philadelphia. And look, talk about being due. TFC has simply owned the Philadelphia Union over the years. Great point. Heading into the last game against Philadelphia, since 2015, TFC, 10 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. 10 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. So
and remember, Jim, we'd be in the press room when Jim Curtin would walk out of those press conferences, and his tail was between his legs, and he was like Javinko and Vanney, and he's just Altidore. Come on, give me.
Do you mean Voldemort? Altidore. I thought you were like Voldemort from Harry Potter. I'm a big Harry Potter guy, Terry.
But he was just so dejected and beaten up, and that
was like an MLS Cup final for them, honestly. They hate playing
that's
Toronto
the time of
FC.
Year we're at right now, though. That's where we're at.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring that up. And the other thing we need to talk about, I felt really bad for Erickson Gallardo.
Just quickly on that, Wheels, and that's a credit to we're top of the league. We're the best team in the league, and that's part of what comes with it. Is look, you've got to go out and prove it every single week in every single game. Sorry.
Yeah. Just on Erickson Gallardo, a lot of people have asked about this. We were in a chat earlier on. People were asking some questions. It's never nice when you're a player to be taken out of a game in the first half. It just isn't. I spoke to Greg about this. He's like, look, I could have taken out Tsubasa. I could have taken out whoever. I needed to get Mullins on the field or someone that could be more of a focal point. And for Erickson, just like a number of different players, he just never got up to the pace of the game. I didn't like his apprehensive work on the first goal. You have the player trapped in the corner, then the ball sprung loose, and they go counter the other way. And he's one of a number of players who were left watching on the set piece goal that was on Philadelphia's second. I feel bad for the player because, and Greg has said this a number of times, good player, great guy. He really likes him, but he's almost too nice. And it's very difficult to pick up that killer instinct. I think in Major League Soccer, it requires a certain mentality to play on that level. And he hasn't been able to find it yet. And I felt for the kid having to come out of that game early. And I know it wasn't by design, and no head coach wants to do that either. So I wanted to bring that up. I just don't think that we can analyze or assess what he is or what he's going to be based upon that performance, but it certainly wasn't a good time for him.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and it's more a dent to your ego or your pride when you come off like that. And Greg is trying to do what's best for the team. It's not personal. I really believe not only Greg, the club, and Gallardo's teammates want to see him succeed. He's here for a reason. He does have qualities that we don't have a ton of in the squad, and for whatever reason, it wasn't happening against Philly. A change needed to be made. And unfortunately, his number came up. And, it's going to be tough for him to get back in there at some point. All he can do now is keep his head up. It's tough. It's a test of his character right now. And train like a beast. And you never know.
Yep. I'm with you. The best to him. And
too, there's a bit of a language barrier, which isn't easy as well.
Yeah.
And
he was hoping that connection with like Arrow on the left-hand side would work, and Arrow had an off night as well. It just, look, none of the players played up to par. And he was just part of a night where he nor the rest of the team, no one responded. So it wasn't just on him. It was just part of an entire unit that simply wasn't good enough on that night.
Yeah. And kind of big picture Gallardo. And I know we don't need another hour and 20-minute podcast tonight, but it just takes time settling in at a club. It's not easy. Look at Jonathan David right now after a big move to Lille, almost 50 million. Cavallini going to Vancouver. I remember I went for a little bit of money once, and it took me 8 months to kind of find my feet, understand the city. It's frustrating. You start to doubt your qualities a little bit. You start to change things. You change your like strange stuff, like your boot color. Right. You'll get mad haircuts. You'll try anything to kind of find that rhythm. You maybe start doing too much in the gym, or you stop the gym. Psychologically, it's really difficult. And, I can understand maybe a little bit what he's going through. He's away from home. It's a long ways away, Toronto from Venezuela. It's a tough year with the pandemic. But I think, he's not the only player to be going through this sort of stuff.
Right. So they fell 5-0 on the weekend to the Philadelphia Union. Based upon that, the Union are the driver's seat now for the Supporters Shield. 3 points up. You might as well make it 4, though, because in terms of goal differential, Philadelphia is a +23. TFC is just a +7. So essentially you need to make up 4 points in your final 2 games. Philadelphia, though, interestingly enough, play Columbus their next time out. Columbus Crew lost tonight to DC United. How do you do that? DC United all of a sudden has won 3 games in a row, but that's a tough game for Philadelphia, Terry, against Columbus. If Columbus takes points away from Philadelphia, and Toronto FC, who play Inter Miami on Sunday, who lost tonight, by the way, to FC Dallas, another struggling team. 2-1 was the final there. Then all of a sudden, heading into that final game, there's something to play for when TFC play the Red Bulls and Philadelphia Union take on New England.
You're making me feel better, man. The permutation expert. I love it.
I'm saying there's a chance. There's a chance.
And it's not craziness. I think for TFC, priorities now, again, not to state the obvious, is how many of those 9 players out can we get back, and kind of just going back a little bit more. And I'm not saying they've gotten away from it, just back to the process a bit. What were those performance indicators that led to good performance, and just kind of focusing on that, and the results around you and your result will start to take care of itself. And I think when TFC put together all those wins, there was an incredible focus on their game model, their style of play, and what they were trying to execute within the game.
Yep. I'm expecting, Arrow will be back in the team. Yep. I expect him at left back. I tried to get Mavinga and Zavaleta back in, give Omar and Laurent, these are 2 experienced players, a little bit of a break. You want to get Azorio back in the team. Sounds like he's on track for the weekend. And Ayo Akinola up top to give, Pozzuelo some help. All of a sudden, when you bring those players back in the team, you're like, okay, that, there's much more balance to that group. And you're taking on an Inter Miami team, Terry. This is our mini preview here with some real talent. Gonzalo Higuain. Whenever I hear Higuain versus Toronto FC, it gives me chills down my back, because Federico's also now with Inter Miami, scored more goals against Toronto FC than any other player. Just incredible. And he scored again against them this year with DC United. So they have the Higuain brothers, Rodolfo Pizarro, good Mexican player, DP, number 10 in the middle of the park. Blaise Matuidi, World Cup winner with France. Gonzalez Perez, good defender, but they cannot bring it all together. Good individual pieces, but certainly not a team that plays like a well-oiled machine, if you will.
Yes, because it's the most lopsided squad I've ever seen. And it's a fun team to play against because you're playing against big names. You're playing against guys that have played in World Cups. And, I'm sure TFC will be up for it. The team's found a little bit of form. They've only lost once in their last 3 wins. But they're very... It's like whoever put that team together was, okay, I've got to appease the fan base a little bit. And then, okay, I need to bring in this guy to fix this problem. I still think that team needs a couple of windows, but I'm sure Beckham has a pretty good...
Beckham will get it right.
I'm sure he's got a pretty good Rolodex.
Yeah, you think? And by the way, the pink kits are quality. I love them. They need a sponsor and some better writing on the back so you can actually tell who the players are. But but I like the pink.
Yeah, no, it's but yeah, I'm excited for that. This is one of the nice things with games coming quick and quite quickly that you can put a result past you. But I think the biggest thing is us focusing on our performance. And you know what, TFC fans, I think the team now really needs your support. This team's gone over and beyond to put together an incredible season, and the team just kind of needs your back right now, and to trust in them.
Just a couple other quick notes. They play Sunday, then their final game's not until decision day a week later. So they can fully take advantage of that week. Then MLS and the rest of the footballing world goes into the international break, Terry. So when you think playoffs, I mean, they'll be starting November 20 something, I believe. So it won't be for another 3 weeks or so. So that makes the likelihood of Piatti coming back, potentially Delgado, Altidore. It makes that a much more realistic proposition. So you have time. Time is on your side.
Yeah. It's such a weird international break, this one at the end of
I hate
MLS.
this one.
I mean, it was great when I played for TFC because we weren't in the playoffs and I could get away for 10 days to go to some island. But and I'm hearing rumblings, not to start any rumors, that Canada might be trying to put a camp together.
Woo! So, I heard those rumblings as well. If they do,
I heard the rumblings from you. So
well, if they are able to put something together, full credit to the CSA, because the hurdles that you need to go over and the hoops you need to go through during these COVID times are incredibly difficult. They're very prohibitive. So fingers crossed on that one, but don't expect MLS player or TFC Canadian players to go. This would be basically a European camp for those players to get them involved and start gearing up for what should be a busy 2021. So TFC Inter Miami, that's coming your way this Sunday. I am just getting the exact time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Join me for pregame live on Facebook Live at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time after 90 minutes with myself and Eric Giacometti right after the final whistle. And guess what? There will be fans in the stands, up to 5,000. What do you call people from Hartforders? Hartfordians? Hartfordshires in the stands in Hartford for that game. So we'll see our New England Toronto FC supporters come out and support the Reds. It'll be great to see.
Imagine the road trip we could do if I guess if the pandemic wasn't here, we'd be just playing at home, but that'd be a cool road trip. How far is it to drive?
It's not that bad. I think probably like 8-9 hours. I'm guessing.
Your convertible down, man.
Yeah.
We be rolling.
Picture me rolling. Picture me rolling. So that game coming your way on Sunday.
Stick our clubs in the car.
Buddy, no problem. Well, again,
just an update, guys. Just interrupting right here. 7 hours and 44 minutes.
Not bad, Jerome. That was not a bad guess on my part, considering I've never in my life been to Hartford, Connecticut. So
right.
Unless you have someone that can smuggle us over the border, and right now, not the best place to go with COVID blowing up everywhere. So we'll leave that alone for now. One of these days, we'll make it to Hartford, Terry. Just two more news and notes I wanted to bring up before we say goodbye for this week. Last week, we spent a lot of time going into this whole Supporters Shield debacle. Common sense prevailed, and the Supporters Shield will be awarded this year. Any comment on it whatsoever?
It's not easy to eat humble pie. So
I do it every day, basically.
Yeah, like you said, I think the right decision was made. It's great too that if you speak up, that you're heard too. And I think this is part of what the Supporters Shield is and why it started.
Yep. It matters. Prizes matter, awards matter. It matters to the fans. It matters to the players. It matters to the league. And that became abundantly clear. It would have been worse for me if there was no reaction whatsoever and apathy.
The next steps would have been MLS would have handed out their own trophy and the Supporters Shield. They would have been trumped.
Which would have been awful. That wouldn't have made any sense. No. And finally, a new award in Major League Soccer, and I give full credit to MLS. Gone is Rookie of the Year, which it's so arbitrary. Who's a rookie? A first-year player in the league? Like, it might work for other North American sports, but not for football. So instead, in its place, a Young Player of the Year award is going to be given out. I love it. It makes more sense. I actually would put a Young Player of the Year award into any professional sports league. It just shines a spotlight on the up-and-coming bright stars of your league. I think it makes a whole lot of sense, Terry.
Especially when Isle's going to win it.
I don't know about look, I think that he was right in the conversation. These injuries that have kept him out a little bit, I think, play against him. On MLSsoccer.com, they have him coming in at number 5. I think a top 5 for Io makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, Brendan Aronson, Philadelphia, Mark McKenzie, Philadelphia. I believe Diego Rossi fits the bill as well. I mean, he scored again tonight.
Around for too long. They're not in it.
But they're still young. That's the beauty of the award. By the way, if you want to know a stud in Major League Soccer, and it has me thinking, we brought up Achara earlier in the episode. I kind of have been thinking like how good he could have been this year. Because some scouts that I've talked to like 2 players. They like Achara and they like Daryl DK out of Orlando. He scored again tonight for Orlando City. Excellent attacking player and a steal for Orlando. So, I just can't wait to see Achara back on the field. Neil Davidson wrote a piece about Achara, about him trying to make a difference. He's from Nigeria. There's all kinds of political strife and real injustice that's going on in that country right now. And Achara is trying to make a difference from afar. I give the kid a whole lot of credit as he deals with watching on the sidelines after such a bright start to the year.
Quality player, powerful, dynamic, great human being. Just, somebody that we could use right now. And he'll be back.
By the way, Jerome brings up Io Akinola, 4th overall in the MLS Soccer top 22 under 22, which is more about conversation than anything else. Because guess what? They don't call me for a vote. Do they call you for a vote? I would love to have a vote.
I had him at number 1.
Did you have a vote?
No, I'm only messing.
I'm like, how do I get a vote on this? Because I always hit out at the jury because I want to be involved. Good stuff, Terry. Anything else to bring to the table? Any very quick Academy update? You're just social distancing, getting on with
social distancing. A little bit of test of our mental strength right now, but it's great. We're not in the Zoom world. Our Academy director is doing a fantastic job right now too of our protocols are tight, making sure we're training every day, and things are at the moment kind of just working like clockwork within our restraints.
Good stuff. So TFC Miami on Sunday night. And if you're interested in who Toronto FC will play in the Canadian Championship, Forge FC plays Tuesday night, 8 p.m. on TSN against Tauro down in Panama. They've been there for the last week. They're going to be down there for a couple more days. Good experience for them as they kind of build towards potentially qualifying anyways into the CONCACAF Champions League, advancing in the CONCACAF League. But if you haven't watched the Canadian Premier League before, well, shame on you. But it's an opportunity to kind of tune in to see who Toronto FC will be playing most likely in the new year.
Yeah, nice heads up. Novak scored a great volley, didn't he, to get them in the next round?
Novak? Yes, Vac.
I think we beat Toro I want to say with TFC Toro.
Oh yeah, they've been in the Champions League. They knocked out FC Dallas a couple of years ago.
Playing down, I think Julian de Guzman scored a great goal down there. Nice. Huge stadium. I love Panama, cool city.
Panama. That's all you think about when you hear Panama. So plenty of football on the horizon, plenty of ways to keep yourself occupied while you continue to stay safe and try to make the most of this very difficult situation. So shout out to you and all Toronto FC supporters listening or watching from home. Jerome, the J that I see on my screen, shout out to Jerome. Thanks, Jerome. Anything else to add?
Absolutely my pleasure, guys. No. Great episode. It was a pleasure listening along.
I give all the credit in the world to Terry. He was solid tonight. Way to bring your A game. By the way, we brought up Borat last week. Did you end up seeing it? No,
I did actually watch it.
Yeah, and
solid.
Yeah. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10.
I think that's a fair place to put it at. Yep, I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Right. It's so hard to make the sequel to Borat because everyone knows what he looks like. You know, he's known. He's
the way they
famous
handled
now.
that and the way they handled the switch due to COVID was impressive. I'll give them that.
Didn't Borat call somebody out on social media or something happened? I'm trying to remember.
Trump, Giuliani.
Yeah,
it's all politics.
They told him he could come in my movie or something.
Yeah. Check it out. It's something to do, something not awful to do. On behalf of Jerome and behalf of Terry, I'm Wheeler. Episode 210 coming up next week. In the meantime, come on, you Reds.